She says it almost in a whisper, "I want people to know I'm a real person." And in that second, the whole interview cracks. Because when truly real people live truly real lives, they don't have to convince the world of it. Tonight on Secrets of the Sussexes, we break down the closing stretch of Meghan's latest business press interview, where three small threads weave into a large portrait: how she talks about money, how she frames simple family life, and how she flips any criticism into a lament about dehumanization. Stay until the end. One phrase, tossed almost between the lines, explains why her brand keeps stalling with an older audience. First, money. The interviewer carefully nudges toward financial literacy, especially important for women, and asks Meghan to share her journey: how she earns, how she spends, how she invests. And then, the familiar fairy tale. Coupons, sales racks, working at a frozen yogurt shop at 13, "I've always valued what I earned." The words are placed just right, the pauses deliberate, the tone warm. But pull the camera half a step back and the story creaks. Because someone who's lived financial independence as experience, not as metaphor, doesn't stage it with a spotlight. They speak plainly, concretely. Here it feels curated effort, plausible, yes, but polished like a lifestyle showroom. And that's exactly where viewers over 50 flick the switch from sympathy to scrutiny. If you truly believe in work and restraint, you don't build a pavilion around yourself where every jar, every phrase, every shot is product placement. You just live. Anyone who's paid their own bills for decades can tell the difference. Next, simple family. Meghan insists, "We normalize everything, we're very hands-on parents, it all begins in the kitchen, kids clearing plates, learning to help at home." The phrasing is flawless, almost a handbook. But listen between the lines: our children have access to privilege, but they'll work, it's about values. I'll tell them the truth they can carry. And here the mature viewer asks the central question: whose truth? Truth measured for image? Truth sanded for a project? Or truth with the awkward relatives, the clumsy choices, the untimely words included? Real family values don't need choreography, they reveal themselves in habits. If you really live a normal life, you don't keep proving it. You just do it, and children notice without press releases. And yes, one day the kids will read everything that's been written, she says, almost by accident acknowledging her deepest worry. They'll read not just praise but the cold facts and contradictions. Hence the insurance line: the truth in the amount they can carry. To a careful ear, that means truth by rations. And rationed truth isn't revelation. It's editing. Now, her favorite role: the real person who is dehumanized by clickbait. This is the crescendo. "I have friends from school, I drive my kids myself, I'm just a person." Hear it? That's not an answer, it's a request for certification. When authenticity is organic, you don't wave paperwork. People pick it up in unremarkable details, not in declarations. And here the 50-plus audience spots the paradox: the harder someone insists they're simple, normal, real, the harder it is to believe there's no script behind it. Think of any figure this country truly respected, they never said, "I'm just a person." They showed up in the rain and got on with it. Notice how she shifts the battleground. The question was about credibility of image, why her brand fails to secure trust. But instead of addressing substance, she slides it into morality. "Remember, I'm human." It's a classic tactic: rename a debate about facts into a plea about feelings. And there lies the trap for the audience: criticize the product, and you're accused of hurting the person. But adults over 50 hold two thoughts at once: they respect human dignity and still call out fakery when they see it. That's adulthood. Another tinny note: on the longest days, it's nuggets and a toaster. At last, something ordinary. But even here the line is function, not life, a coupon of relatability redeemed on cue. Real simplicity doesn't announce itself, it breathes. Now to the seam that makes the whole suit fit wrong. At the end, the interviewer voices it bluntly: the power of any celebrity brand depends on belief. The hard part isn't selling a product, it's being believed. And here, no matter how noble the words, the core problem surfaces. The brand asks for faith but offers no collateral. Collateral is consistency. One interview says we're above the noise. The next says we're real, believe me. Values arrive as slogans while the lifestyle around them flickers with staged shots. Mature viewers conclude, "You don't want my respect, you want my loyalty to your version." Loyalty is bought with ads. Trust is earned with work. The currencies are not interchangeable. Why does this agitate Montecito so much? Because across the ocean there's a counterexample, reality proven not by slogans but by routine, without agendas, without self-presentation. Where service ends in silence after the event, not a string of candid photos and unexpected callbacks. That's why every "we just want a normal life" rings so brittle against the backdrop of constant staged normality. Retention lives not in volume but in rhythm. Attentive viewers stay when they feel they're not being sold their own trust back to them, but spoken to like adults. That's why in our breakdown we didn't chase labels, we listened to the speech. And in speech, no matter how trained, the wrong word will slip. Here it was, truth in the amount they can carry. That single phrase drags a whole train of filtered versions, softened edges, strategic lighting. It explains why the answer "the media are cruel" never satisfies. People don't believe not because the press is harsh, but because they hear persuasion instead of truth. The final brushstroke, and it's quieter than you expect. Life matures not with grand declarations but with small tests of consistency. If you speak of financial independence, show it by silence around your accounts. If you speak of family, don't choreograph the kitchen. If you say "I'm a real person," live a month without saying it. If you can, nothing needs proving. The pause after a day's work will prove it for you. A pause that doesn't need filters, captions, or truth in portions. And that's why this interview isn't a triumph. It's a display case with fogged glass. Too many words to make us trust gestures. Too many "I'm real" s to make us feel reality. Mature viewers always choose meaning over noise. And while the meaning scatters into glitter, trust never sticks. Stay with us, next episode will unpack how one quiet week at the palace outshone every narrative from California, and why calm draws more views than hashtags ever will.